What's good in the hood, YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing you another video. Today's video is on a real talk, which hasn't been done in a while. So today I'm going to be doing on something that I kind of discussed in one of my previous videos, but I didn't discuss it in the way that I wanted to. I don't remember exactly if it was the same kind of concept, but it's just overall the idea, which is something that I've been wanting to discuss for a little while, which is the idea of Pokemon. Now, I did a video on Pokemon a while back. Not many people really viewed it, but regardless, I had a real talk in mind, which is the topic of is power. I'm thinking of my original real talk, which is the Pokemon TV show any good anymore? Now, many of us have grown up with the original show, following Ash Ketchum and Misty and Brock and all of those characters and enjoying it. For some of us, we grew up during the time of when the second series happened. So when the Gold and Silver games were out, and others have grown up during Hoenn, and others have grown up during Sinnoh, and so on and so forth. And as the show has continued on over time, it's still on today, and it's pretty long. Most people aren't going to sit down and watch 800 plus episodes, because that's exactly where they're around, like 800 or so episodes into the entire show, which is a lot. Personally, though, I have watched the entire show. Yes, you may think to yourself, what? You've watched the entire show? What are you saying? Yes, I have watched the entire show. More than once, in fact. Yes, I actually have. Though not everyone's a huge fan of the anime, I have watched the show. I've watched some of the Japanese episodes as well. I watched a number of the band episodes. And believe me when I say this, I know why a lot of people are really against it, and the popularity of the show has died down over time. But I'll tell you this much right now, in my opinion, in regard to how the show, in regard to whether or not the show has gotten, if it's still a good show at all, because plenty of us do remember it being a fun show when we were younger. The thing is that I feel that as the seasons continued for a while, it was good until a certain point. And, I think that the season that most people, starting from Black and White, things really went downhill. And I feel like this is how the curve looked for the show. Obviously, Generation 1, it was looking all high, all smooth sailing, things were looking good. Generation 2, things were pretty much continuing as they were. Third generation, definitely a really good year. Fourth generation, for the most part, things are looking good, but people are starting to lose their interest more so the fan base is beginning to fade a bit here and there, and only those fans that really are enjoying the show, really love the show, are sticking to it, or they're of the newer generation. So that's understood. Then fifth generation came along, and that's when the fan base really lost a lot of interest. And I think that part of the reason why that is because they really didn't appeal to a lot of people's age. And one of my biggest issues is that, for example, Ash Ketchum, the way that they make him act in fifth generation alone is very, very juvenile, and he acts like, oh, I don't know what any of this is. He acts very, very, very not so intelligent, not really interesting. He acts very juvenile and really acts like, oh, this is new. Oh, I'm beyond naive. That's how he acts. He acts super naive. And sure, in the past he's always been naive, but at the same time, for some reason, I feel that that fifth generation really showed him as a younger character. Fifth generation also was one of the generations that, though it's a very important generation gaming wise, it is also one of the generations gaming wise that really did not get the best press and did not get the most views. A lot of the views came later, and that's part of the reason why they also had to do Black and White too. Also just for more sales, of course, but just in general, Black and White really did not sell very well overall, because of the fact that at that point they really weren't commercializing it as much, and the people weren't really as interested in fifth gen. Except for the people that are fans of the Pokemon series, that play the games at least. But the show, other than in Japan, a lot of Americans, though there are some that definitely have watched it, which I am one of them, and if anyone is watching this, that's one of them. Believe me when I say this, I feel it too, that yeah, a lot of the fan base really wasn't there for 5th gen. Now the thing is that 6th gen's going on now, so we have Kalos happening, so X and Y and all of that. X and Y has been a very popular game, very successful game, and I think that a lot of times the game that it's based off of does represent, is the show going to do well? Because if the game does well, the show should hopefully do well. Oddly enough, I really feel that that's true, because see, the first 4 generations, the games were all doing well. 5th generation was kind of like that hidden gem. It was kind of the game that is beyond important, but at the same time, unless you're a fan, you're not going to go and pick it up, really. I mean, sure, maybe some kids did, but most of the time kids aren't going out of their way to buy that one because it was just kind of like the odd game out, and I personally will agree with that, because also black and white, you really only... Like, for the beginning of the game, you didn't see any other Pokemon other than the 5th gen ones, which is cool, but at the same time, it's like, can we have some variety? And that's why Black and White 2 came out, where we had that variety, and where things were different, where things were enjoyable, and where we weren't just seeing the same Pokemon over and over again. We were seeing... now we're seeing a 1st gen Pokemon, now we're seeing a 3rd gen Pokemon, now we're seeing a 4th gen Pokemon, and we're actually seeing them. We're not just like, we're going to pretend they don't exist for now. I mean, we know they exist, but we're not going to talk about them. That's one of the biggest problems with 5th gen, was the fact that they really tried to hide it. And that really bothered everyone, because it was just like, why? Why couldn't you just let us have it? And that's why Black and White 2 received a lot better press, because of the fact that they fixed that problem, and also the story expanded from where it ended, and it was like a year or two later or so, and it was really awesome. And I think that that's one of the things that's really great, and a lot of people have been hoping for maybe an X and Y, and an X2 and a Y2, just because of the fact that the story was good for Kalos, and it was a pretty good story. I mean, sure, the gameplay was not that hard, but I mean, 5th generation alone, one of the things that most people don't know about is, unless you played the game, is the fact that there are difficulty settings in 5th gen. Yes, you could choose, I want to play it on a difficult, on a much more difficult level versus the normal gameplay. Yes, that's actually an option. That's something you gain in the game, that you can actually play it on a higher difficulty, which is awesome, because plenty of people definitely wanted to do that, because, Pokemon games aren't always the most difficult, but there are definitely some that are more difficult than others. But X and Y has been received very well, game-wise, and as far as the show goes, though there has been more of a newer fan base coming into the show due to a regular progression of age of the show. For those that really have been gone from it for a while, the ironic thing though is that, unlike Black and White, the anime, the show really wasn't it was a good show, but it wasn't the best show. The Pokemon weren't all that exciting in regard to when it came to the show itself, not to the actual game. But I mean, there were some that were like, oh yeah, that's awesome, and then there were others that were just kind of like, well, why are we seeing the characters have these Pokemon or showing these Pokemon? 6th gen has done a lot of amazing stuff. The anime's had a lot more dramatic scenes. There's been relations. There's been moments with romance and relationships, and characters having crushes on each other, such as with Serena and Ash. There's been like some flirting going on there. We have other characters like Clement and Bonnie, which have been interesting characters. And in America, the thing is that currently speaking, we haven't gotten to the really, really exciting parts that happen in like the next couple of episodes or so. But by the time that I would say maybe in the next week or so, it should happen. Actually, no. When I think about it, like by the time this is up, if this is up during the weekend, I would say it should have happened. But one of the things is that in a lot of previous generations, we've had these female characters go into these competitions. When Serena does her first competition, the end, like that whole ending scene, there is so much emotion. I know I'm speaking for people that have watched the Japanese, and I may be spoiling for people that are actually interested in the American show. Sorry to say this, but I mean, there is so much emotion that occurs there. There's also a lot of really exciting episodes that follow this. Like, there's so many evolutions that are supposed to happen right after this that I was just I couldn't believe it. And you will be amazed at what kinds of evolutions you will see. I just in general, this is a generation where, yes, they're actually, like, you know how everyone always complains about the fact that, oh, Ash never evolves his Pokemon. He still has that Squirtle. He still has that Bulbasaur. He never evolved it, right? All we ever saw in first generation was that Charizard that he fully evolved, or that Pidgeot that he fully evolved. We never saw any, Blastoise or Venus, or you know what I'm talking about? I mean, we never saw any of that. For once, in 6th generation, he's doing a lot of evolution, oddly enough. And also, it's not just him. There's other characters that are getting their Pokemon evolved as well, which is great. And I'm not just saying like one or two. I'm saying all of the pretty much all the characters are getting having at least one or two evolutions following this with their Pokemon for the most part. Yeah, actually, yeah. It's about right, one or two at least for most of the Pokemon. Obviously, not including Bonnie since she's the little girl, but all the other characters, yeah, they're definitely getting evolutions, which is just great because that's one of the things that people always complain about was the fact that these characters never got the evolutions that they deserved. So anyway, guys, regardless of that, people are. It's one of the best things about it is the fact that that's happening. Also, a lot of the movies are looking really exciting. Like the Hoopa one looks really awesome because it's having so many legendaries returning, which is really something to really get excited about. Because I mean, having all these legendaries show up and really hyping it and making people think, oh wow, look, there's that legendary. Oh my god, there's that legendary. That's awesome. That's really awesome, and that's exciting. And I think that that's something that really people have to think highly of, because personally, I don't know about you guys, but I think that that's great because it's awesome to have all these Pokemon, and also it explains the whole entire mystery of the vortexes in the games and why those vortexes exist in auras. Yes, in auras. That's a reference to auras. And yes, we do see Omega. We do see Mega Groudon and Mega Kyogre in that movie. That's what's been shown also. That's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. They're really trying to tie everything to what's going on now. So yeah, auras is being made clear here. In the anime, though, it hasn't really been made clear here, but regardless, that's not important. It's exciting. It's just exciting. And I think that everyone has to remember that though the show may not have, though the show has declined a lot in regard to popularity, and yes, there were seasons and parts that were a lot more boring and didn't feel as exciting, the show has gotten better. The show has improved. There's a lot more emotion. It really feels like they're trying to take the show seriously and really trying to not act like, oh, this is a little kid show. Oh, let's just do all this dumb stuff because little kids are gonna love it. No, they're thinking about they're starting to think now for 6th generation about their older audience, and that's something that's really great, that I really feel is wonderful. Sure, there are elements that aren't, but at the same time, the way that the battles take place are so much more epic. There's so much more excitement. The music is intense. Everything's intense. It's awesome. The evolutions are great. The timing of things is great. Sure, there are still failures, but you know what? It's really, really good now. It really feels like they're trying hard. If you really wanted to try to take a Pokemon, this is the time to take it up, since everything really exciting is happening now. I would definitely recommend looking into X and Y and seeing what you think about how things are looking. I especially would suggest looking at the episode that's coming out this weekend, I believe. So, which by the time this is up, this might actually be up before or after. It'll be. So anyway, guys, regardless, it should be like the 60th episode of the show. You could probably find it online really easily. If you guys are curious, I'll probably, if anyone asks, I'll put up a link just telling you what with the episodes so that you can see it. Because personally, I'll tell you this much, the emotion in that episode, that episode made me almost cry, just because the fact that the emotion, like there's so much sentiment going on, the characters are great. Of course, I'm watching the Japanese one, which may have made a difference, but regardless, hopefully the American one still has that same impact, because personally, oh my god, that really turned me on so much because of the fact that it was just like, yes. So we're having story, we're having character development, and that's true. We actually are having character development. These characters aren't static anymore. These characters are really growing and developing and changing over time, especially Serena, especially our female. Our female is really going through a lot of change, and that's one of the things that's very significant about that episode, is that there is such a huge change in character from her following that episode that's just so important, and it's so exciting, and it's so intense, but so different. And I mean, when I saw that, I couldn't believe it. So anyway, guys, I'm sorry I'm like over the top excited, but that's how I was, and it's great, and everything that's going on is exciting. It's fun. If you guys liked the anime when you were younger, I definitely would suggest trying it now. So anyway, guys, please like, comment, subscribe. This has been Crazy Samurai 71, and goodbye.